What is up, everyone? Today we have another UFC Fight Night card to break down from a Draftkings DFS perspective. This week's card being headlined by Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov in the middleweight division. And there's been a lot of moving parts throughout the past 2 weeks. But as I sit here today, which is the Friday before the fights, we do have a full 11 fight card. And all that means for the slate context is that there's probably going to be less upside. You're probably going to not need as much from your underdogs. And things like win value, stuff like that, are going to be higher on the priority list than they would on cards with 14 fights or something like that. So let's go ahead and just get started with this analysis at Ribeiro versus Gadzhiyasulov, I believe is how you say it. Okay, this is a fairly easy breakdown here. Gadzhiyasulov, he's a 3-1 favorite. He's 9.3K, so the DraftKings pricing makes sense. He's favored to win in round one, and he also has takedown upside. It's an elite play here in all contest types. And then Ribeiro on the other side, he's about a 3-1 dog or so, and I think if he wins this fight, it's going to be by finish. Uh, so it just makes him an MME play only, a kind of a punt play at low ownership on an 11 fight card. I think it's a reasonable MME play here. But besides that, Gadzhiyasulov is by far the better play overall, and I would play him in all contest types. Next up, we have Fahkretdinov versus Nicholas Dalby. Fahkretdinov fits the DraftKings fighter profile you're looking for: relentless wrestling pace, total strikes, control time, all of that stuff. And in this matchup, he's about a 3-1 favorite, which makes sense for his pricing at 9.2K. So he's a phenomenal play. As we can go to his game log, he can put up 100 plus in his decision wins. So I think he's a very strong play here. And Nicholas Dalby on the other side at 7K flat. He's not really a finisher. As you can see, he has a pretty poor IATD line. Another play, I think it's MME only. Probably even weaker than the Ribeiro play, just because I'm not convinced that if Dalby wins, it's by finish. So yeah, Renat is clearly the side here, and Dalby is just a fringy MME play at best. Then we have Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gordon. We'll start off with the Jared Gordon side at 7.2K. He is a 2-1 underdog, so reasonable for the DraftKings pricing. And I think he's an okay play here because he's 7.2K. He has pretty much all of the wrestling upside in this matchup. Um, and I think that if he wins, it's more than likely going to be with a few takedowns. Uh, his finishing upside isn't great. I guess that's what's going against him. Yeah, he's really poor ITD line here. But overall, I think he's probably the side in DFS. When you look at Nasrat, he's about plus 200 ITD at 9K as a pure striker. That's really not good. And then you add in the fact that there's just a lot of studs around him in the pricing range. I think that Nasrat is a very tough play. Now, will he be low owned? Yeah, but he's clearly one of the worst plays here in the high salary tiers. So overall, I think that Jared Gordon is the side, and he's another guy who fits the bill of pretty much all contest types. I think he's a good cash game floor and punt play as well. He might not have that 100+ ceiling, but overall, I think he's a good value play at 7.2K. Up next, we have Calvin Gastelum versus Rodriguez. This fight, I don't think looks good on either side. we'll take a look at Kelvin Gastelum first. He's about a 2-1 favorite, 8.9K. So the DraftKings salaries make sense. But as far as the upside, Kelvin Gastelum, minimal takedown upside at best. Let's take a look here. Okay, I mean, I guess 1.5, it's okay. I mean, that's not going to score you 100 plus, but it's okay. And then we take a look at the ITD line, plus 250 at 8.9K. That's really poor. So Calvin Gastelum is another play that I think is MME only. And then Daniel Rodriguez, 7.3K, pure striker. Pretty awful ITD line. Another play that I think is an MME only. So this fight as a whole, this seems like a pass. Shara Magomedov versus Antonio Trocoli. Shara is the clear value spot this week. He's a 5-1 favorite, 8.8K. Short notice replacement. ITD line. Okay, so in round one, he's plus 150. That alone is extremely strong. And ITD minus 260. Shara is a phenomenal play here in all contest types. And then Trocoli is obviously a MME play only, just really poor win value and all of that stuff. Short notice, everything going against him. So I would only play Trocoli and MME, and that's it. Moving on, we have Sergey Pavlovich versus Volkov. This fight, it's a bit weird because they obviously, or whatever the narrative is about them being former training partners. But even with that, the fight's favored to go under 1.5. You got a 70-30 kind of fight. I think, yeah, so Volkov's winning, about 30% of the time he's going to win. Pavlovich, 70% to win or so. And the fight's going to end in round one about half the time, according to the odds here. It's a pretty easy play on both sides. And if if the optimizers start getting to Pavlovich too much and he becomes like 40+% owned, which he probably will be, then I have no problem playing Volkov for leverage and upside because I think he has both of those things. So yeah, this fight is, I would not play it in cash or anything like that. If anything, if I was going to play this fight in cash, I would play the Pavlovich side. But overall, I think this fight is a good GPP fight on both sides. And depending on your risk tolerance, you can maybe play the Pavlovich side in cash games. But I personally wouldn't. Okay. Then we have Gafurov versus Kane. Gafurov minus 150. He has takedown upside. People aren't really too excited to play Gafurov at minus odds, but for this analysis, he gets takedowns when he wins, and he's 8.5K with, I believe, a decent ITD line. Plus 250, it's okay, I guess. So with all those things, despite what you may hear, I actually think that Gafurov is a viable play here because of his takedown upside. And then Kane on the other side seems to be like this underdog that everyone loves this week. But as far as DFS, it's just the upside is hard to see. Plus 350 ITD at 7.7K. That's not good. And he's pretty much a pure striker. So all in all, it seems like this is a Gafurov or pass. But certainly I wouldn't X out Kane or anything when it comes to MME. But for overall, single entry, stuff like that, Gafurov seems to be the side here. Then we have the main event, Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. I'm going to give my opinion on this fight. But first, we'll start with the DFS breakdown. We have potentially 5 rounds. Ikram has, I believe, almost all of the finishing upside in this matchup. He's got the wrestling upside in this matchup. Ikram is what is he, 7.8K, I believe. Yeah, so Aliskerov, an incredible play here. And then the Whittaker side, yes, there's 5 rounds to work with, but I mean, okay, yeah, I guess I suppose if he puts up 130 strikes in a decision win, that'll score well at 8.4K, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that if Robert Whittaker wins, it's going to be a huge 120-point score. Whereas Ikram, I am convinced that if he wins, whether by finish or decision, he's going to put up points. So overall, the Ikram side is, I would say, the better side in DFS, especially when you consider the fact that Whittaker will probably be very high owned. And then as far as the overall fight, I think that Ikram is the side in the betting analysis as well. I mean, Whittaker, he really does not finish anyone, and Ikram has the wrestling upside, the finishing upside, and you're gonna play Whittaker at minus 160, whose only meaningful win condition is by decision, whereas Ikram, I believe, can win by any method. It just seems like an Ikram spot here. Whatever that's worth, I think that Ikram is the clear side, both in DFS and betting. Lon versus Lee. This is a UFC debut on both sides. And I'll be honest, I haven't watched any film on these guys, but according to every YouTuber and all of that stuff, Lee is a relentless grappler, and I believe, yeah. So he has a 2.5 takedown line with juice towards the over, and Lan Zhao also has a 1.5 takedown line. So both sides actually could have some takedown upside. And then you add in the fact that Lee has plus 260 ITD line. Lee is just a great play here. And, if I was going just off the metrics, Lon at plus 400 ITD with a tiny bit of takedown upside at 8.3K, that's really not good. But I just have a feeling this fight is going to be really high variance, and I don't want to take the chance that Lon gets a round 1 finish, and I'm really low on him. So for me personally, I'm going to be on both sides, just because I do believe this fight could carry a lot of variance. And that's that. I think both sides are good. I probably wouldn't touch this fight in cash games, but MME, GPPs, all of that stuff, I think this fight looks like a phenomenal fight to target. Next up, we have Lima versus Naimov. Pick'em fight, maybe a touch of line value on Lima. And I think that this fight is good on both sides. Really, you have a pick'em fight. Both guys could potentially have takedowns, and the ITD line is about right where you'd want it on both sides, about plus 250. So I think both sides look good for MME. It's not really a fight I'd look to target in cash games, but I'll definitely have both sides in GPPs. Last but not least, Johnny Walker versus Volkan Oezdemir. A pick'em fight. The ITD lines look extremely strong for both guys, about plus 200. I guess this fight looks good on paper. I could see. I guess the only problem is if this fight finishes, it's obviously going to deliver, and if it doesn't, I don't think it will. I think there's 60 to 75 points for the winner if this fight does go the distance. So it's a higher variance fight. It's much more binary fight. Whereas I think if you're targeting like the Lee versus Lon fight, this fight has outs to get there in a decision. Whereas the Walker versus Oezdemir fight, I think a lot of the upside is tied in with the fight finishing. So overall, it's a good MME play, good GPP play, but I wouldn't go out of my way to target it in single entry or anything like that. But that's going to do it. I hope that helped. If anyone has any questions, please leave a comment or text in the DFS PhD Discord. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.